Information you want, truth you demand. It's Brian Kilmeade.
Bernie Sanders is 79. I can't figure out a thing that he accomplished except for building brand awareness on a independent socialist. He used to come on as a novelty. It's unbelievable. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez seems to be a person with as much power as Speaker Pelosi. And I think what's frustrating the speaker is she can't control the message.
Brian Kilmeade. Listen live or subscribe to the podcast at briankilmeadshow.com.
This is a test to find out if you know it all when it comes to children. Time starts now. Name one of the leading killers of U.S. children age 1 to 13. What's the best way to protect children in a car crash? At what age and size should a child start using a booster seat? Where can you find the answers to these questions?
Car crashes are one of the leading killers of U.S. children. Many of those deaths could be prevented by making sure that kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Don't assume you know it all when it comes to car seats for your child. Go to safercar.gov/the-right-seat and know for sure. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
This is House Call for Health. Her heart was in the right place, but nothing else was. Rosemarie Bentley lived a long and healthy life. She owned an animal feed store in Molalla, Oregon. Bentley was 99 years old when she died in 2017. She donated her body for medical research, and that's when things got interesting. Doctors at the Oregon Health and Science University's Anatomical Services Center discovered that, with the exception of her heart, Bentley's internal organs were not where they were supposed to be. Her organs were in the mirror opposite positions in her body. Turns out Bentley had a rare congenital condition called situs inversus with levocardia. It's a condition that affects 1 in 22,000 people, and it causes all sorts of health problems. So doctors were amazed that Bentley lived until 99. One of Bentley's children says her mom would think this is really cool. For more health news, go to foxnewshealth.com. House Call for Health, I'm Joy Piazza, Fox News.
Wildfires burn millions of acres across the country each year. And each year, wildland firefighters battle to contain them. But they can't do it alone. For some communities, it's not a question of if wildfires strike, but when. And a single ember can travel more than 1 mile. As it twists and turns and floats through the air, that single ember can find its way to where you live and can ignite and destroy your home or your community. That single ember can be just as dangerous as the wildfire itself. You can't control where the ember will land, but you can control what happens when it does. You can take action now to prepare your home and your community for wildfire. Get fire adapted. Learn what you can do now to reduce wildfire damage later at fireadapted.org. Prepare, protect, prevail. A public service message brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council. Learn more at fireadapted.org.
The Dean's List with Janice Dean.
A story about a mom and her son makes today's Dean's List. Ada Keating is 98 years old, but her 80-year-old son Tom is still her little boy in her heart. And when he needed her help, she proved just how strong her love is and how easy it is to slip back into caring for her little boy. Tom is a former painter and decorator and decided he needed help being looked after. So he moved into Moss View, a nursing home. Ada is a retired nurse, so she would come by occasionally and help care for him. But the visits weren't enough for mother or son, and they missed each other. So Ada decided to move into Moss View to be closer to Tom during their final days. And now they spend as much time as they want together, and they take advantage of it. They are together from morning to night, and Ada greets him every morning and says goodnight to him every evening. Thank you, Ada and Tom, for making us smile. You both made the Dean's List. Janice Dean, Fox News.
And now, another golf confessional brought to you by Golfsmith. Recently, a man told us he'd finally learned to deal with his anthropophobia, an overwhelming fear of other people. How? He went to Golfsmith and got the Nike VRS Covert 2.0 driver with its high-speed cavity-back design. Now he hits the ball so far, he doesn't have to be around anyone on the course. You don't need a psychological disorder to get the Nike VRS Covert 2.0 driver. You just need to go to Golfsmith. Anything for golf.
The talk show that's getting you talking. You're with Brian Kilmeade.
When you have a population, a cluster that is not vaccinated, this disease spreads quickly. Why exactly these clusters of people are not choosing to get the vaccine, I think varies to some extent, but we know out of the numbers of cases now, over 500 patients who have measles around the country, they're primarily clustered in 4 locations: New York, New Jersey, Washington, California, and the vast majority in New York. I think over 400 in New York. So that's what's happening right now.
That is Dr. Sanjay Gupta on CNN talking about the measles vaccine and the fact that there are clusters in certain areas where people are not getting the vaccine. And you're having some outbreaks. And in New York, 3 Brooklyn parents now have been summoned to court for not vaccinating their kids, and they could face jail time. I like to see people thrown in jail for choosing not to vaccinate their children or for choosing not to give their kid a certain drug or something. On the other hand, when I see, some religions where they don't believe in giving their children certain medical procedures, or they believe in prayer instead of medical intervention, and the kid dies, I get really angry, and I feel like those parents should be sent to jail because you're unfit to be parents. It's a very fine line. I can see both sides of it. Because I don't want the government interfering that much in my life. I really want the government to get away. 866-408-7669. But when your decisions impact other people who maybe are too young to have the vaccine and getting the disease can kill them, people who are elderly, people who have compromised immune systems, people who are maybe on chemo or something, people who can get the disease from you because you're carrying it, because you chose not to get vaccinated, or you chose for your children not to get vaccinated. Your choice then is inadvertently, whether you meant it to or not, affecting other people. And that's where I kind of draw the line. When your personal choices affect other people, I kind of think your personal choices need to be reined in. Dr. Vicky in Los Angeles. Dr. Vicky, thank you so much for joining us on the Brian Kilmeade Show. How are you?
I'm like usual. I've got a sword and a shield in my hand right now because I'm a whistleblower muckraker in medicine, and it is so hard to get change, just so hard. The data, and we don't even have proper data. We don't know the outcome of these 500 cases entirely because we don't have an open source database, something so simple. The FDA knows that we need informed consent on everything. People are not educated on any of the vaccines. They are not educated. They don't know about the history of the vaccine. They don't know that children who get the who have measles can just die from the kind of pneumonia they can get and get an encephalitis, that if they survive the encephalitis, they could be completely retarded for the rest of their lives. These are the reality. Public out there, you don't know them. Why? Because the FDA knows all this but doesn't want to come forth, and we need to have an open source database created by the public, not by the government, not by the FDA, not by the AMA, but where people can put in the data and we can use the data to change medicine, Mary. We need to change medicine.
Why doesn't the government want a database that has these statistics in order to be able to inform parents?
Because in the medical community, I can go story after story. Morcellation still going on today in women over 60 who are at cancer, so that women are dying from a medical device. Over and over again, the FDA, if there's an open source database, it will show its failure. And how many millions and millions of dollars do we pay to have the FDA do its job? It hasn't done it. It won't do it. We, the people, we have to go to Trump. We have to go and raise our hands and shout and scream and fight, because you're doing a show right now, and people don't know enough about measles in this country because we were using the vaccine because we hadn't seen it. So now it's re-entered, and that should be more frightening than anything else, that we have a disease that's raised its head, right? I mean, come on.
Yeah, listen, thank you, Dr. Vicky. I really appreciate your perspective. Could you imagine if kids were getting polio and winding up in iron lungs again and leg braces and all that kind of thing? That would be something that you can visibly see forever for the rest of that person's life. That would make an impression. But if a kid's got measles and stays home from school for a week or what, you don't see it. So people don't think about it. And she's right. We don't know anything about measles. I don't know anything about measles because we all got the vaccination. Nobody got it. Nobody got measles. That was that. Let's go to Matt in Jacksonville, Florida on WOKV. Matt, good morning. You're on the Brian Kilmeade Show. Hi.
Hi, how are you today?
Good, thanks. Where are you on this?
Well, I tell you, just a couple things. First of all, I agree with that lady just ahead of me on one
Dr.
account about
Vicky.
the public about the ability for the public to consume information and gather it on their own. This idea now, what's going on out here where they're trying to preclude, filter, they remove anti-vaccination information. The only source that people have is the internet right now to be able to go out and look. And I think that, number one, the government should not mandate that we do that. Number two, they should not say that we start removing things from some of these public forums where now if you put an anti-vaccine video or something out there that's removed for the public safety. I think that's wrong. I think people need to have an open forum to be able to make a lot of these decisions themselves. The other idea that I had, after understanding the profit center of being in this business, in this industry, is that in 1986, the government passed a law that precluded any type of legal ramifications on these vaccination companies, the companies that produce these vaccines. So they just said, oh, guys, you guys are immune from lawsuit, and the physicians that administer them are both immune. You know what? Take that away. Remove that legislation. Put this back in on the pharmaceutical companies to ensure that what they're putting in our children and our adults are safe. And I bet you're going to see a big change in what happens out there in terms of the sickness and includes the autism rate right now of the kids. But right now they're completely insulated. Now I liken this to the opioid crisis that didn't come from the bottom up. It came from the top down because the government, these guys, Purdue Pharmacy spent $8 billion with a B in lobbyist money to be right where they wanted to be on this opioid crisis. It wasn't until this whole thing was discovered that blew up. So the vaccines is a billion and billion dollar industry right now, and that's why you're seeing, unfortunately, so much of the government coming in and doing all of these things. I think we just simply need to produce good quality products, I don't care whether you're talking about vaccination or any pharmaceutical products, but all of these other drugs have to go through strenuous testing. They have to go through all of these controls. Right now, that doesn't happen with vaccinations.
But you know what, Matt, and a lot of people want to get in. I'm sorry for cutting you off. You know what? That every drug goes through these strict, as you said, guidelines and testing and everything else. Yet every single day you see another ad for another drug. If you had this side effect, it doesn't have to be due to the drug. It's just if you happen to have this side effect, you're now due millions of dollars. And by the time you're done, especially if it's a big case, where do they call them? Oh, Lord, where everybody can get in on it. The word is totally escaping me. But class action, that's it, class action. Thank you, Pete. Class action suit. The lawyers make the bulk of the money on it. And I think that's part of the problem is you're never, look at the side effects. Read the side effects of aspirin. You'll never take another aspirin again. Yet everybody takes them. So I think we have to be very, very careful with that. And as far as a database where parents can educate themselves and they can learn, the average American public, John Q. public, really lazy when it comes to stuff like that. How many people don't read the agreement when they open an app on their phone? They just check I accept and go on, and then they're shocked to find out that, oh my gosh, it gave the company access to all of my contacts, and they copied my contacts, and now they know the addresses of all my friends on Facebook, and they copied all of my photographs, and now my photograph is being used in an advertisement. And they're like, well, you checked the box. It said I accept. Well, I didn't read it. So to expect the American public to take the time to go online, to educate themselves at some kind of website for vaccines, it's pie in the sky. The average American isn't going to do it. Isn't going to do it. Proof, case in point, my lease is up on my apartment. And I got the lease. You have to do it online now and everything. And I'm looking, and I noticed that there were some mistakes in it. And I'm going through it. And I went down to the leasing office. I'm like, what is this? Well, no one's complained before. I'm like, yeah, because no one reads their lease. Most people don't read the lease. They just initial where necessary and sign. People don't read. So I don't know if that solves the problems and will make Americans more educated about vaccinations. It's a very dry subject. I just don't see people flocking to a database to read that information. Sadly, I just don't. 866-408-7669 is the number if you want to weigh in here. You got Brooklyn parents being summoned to court for not vaccinating their kids. You've got outbreaks in Rockland County in New York, Williamsburg, New York. You've got outbreaks in Washington State, in California. Washington State has one of the biggest measles outbreaks. And you've got Republicans who want more loopholes to not vaccinate your kids. And you've got Democrats trying to tighten it up to make sure more people are vaccinated. It's a very contentious topic. If you'd like to weigh in, I look forward to speaking with you. I'm Mary Welter in for Brian Kilmeade.
Coming to you on a need-to-know basis because, man, do you need to know. You're with Brian Kilmeade.